It is certainly a busy time these days in our nation's capital as we get set to swear in a new president and a new administration gets underway, but never too busy to welcome back an old friend of the Means Report, Georgia Senator David Perdue, joining us from Capitol Hill. Senator Perdue, thank you so much for being with us. I'll start with the issue of the day, and that is the Democrats, dozens of them, planning to skip the inauguration. Do you care?
Well, I do, actually. You know, I'm an outsider of this process, and I look at an inauguration. We've only had, this will be the 45th. We've only had 45 in our history, and these are peaceful transfers of power. This is not about partisan politics. This is about establishing a transition of power. There are only 14 times in our history, Brad, that one party has had the White House, a majority in the Senate, and a majority in the House. And only 14 times. 11 times the Democrats have had it, only 3 times the Republicans. But this is a transfer of power that has nothing to do with partisan politics. And so I hope that the majority of people on both sides will be there. I will be there because I think it's historic. It's my responsibility as an elected official in the Senate. And I'm anxious to get to work, and which we will do that afternoon, by the way, Brad. Immediately after the inauguration, the Senate will convene, and we will begin to vote Friday afternoon this week on confirming some of these nominees to the cabinet.
Right. Well, what about from a numerical standpoint, though? Do you need those folks on the other side of the aisle to accomplish the agenda?
Well, on many things, of course we do. Even on Obamacare. We're going to repeal Obamacare because it's collapsing under its own weight. But in my opinion, the ultimate solution to some of these individual issues that we have to solve, including the cost of health care, we need to have an open and active debate with both sides. That's what the Democrats did not do in 2009 and 10 when they had a supermajority and they crammed down the throat of America and they crammed down the throat of the Republican Party this thing called Obamacare. And without that outside input and debate, we ended up with a system that is failing. It's collapsing under its own weight. So to put the fixes in place, I believe we need an active and open debate, which we will have on many facets of this thing.
Yes, Senator, but no matter how that debate goes, just looking at it from a numerical standpoint, will you need those folks from the other side of the aisle to accomplish your agenda?
On some of the items in health care, absolutely. On some of the things in tax code, absolutely. And some of the things of getting the economy working again, absolutely. That's why James Madison, when he created the rules in the United States Senate that have lived all this time, wanted both parties to get together and find common solutions. I believe one of the major problems we have in Washington, Brad, is gridlock. And that's what Donald Trump ran on when he ran for president, is saying, look, this dysfunction's got to stop. We've got to make some changes, get America working again, and get our economy moving and solve the debt crisis and stand up to our responsibilities internationally.
Well, we know that just last month you had the opportunity to visit with the president-elect in New York City. How do you see your role, and really how does the president-elect see your role going forward as far as perhaps being some sort of liaison between the White House and Congress?
Well, I'm just a member of the Senate. I'm on some really good committees. I'm on banking and armed services in addition to agriculture and the budget. So I have a role to play here in the Senate to be an advisor and give consent to a lot of the things the president wants to do. But I'm also a communicator. I'm a business guy. I'm the only Fortune 500 CEO in the entire Congress. And so I stand ready and willing to help interpret some of these things in the Senate in terms of getting the economy going again. Job one for me is the 100-day plan that the president-elect has put out. And we've talked about the priorities and how to get those things done. So my role is simply being a frontline soldier in the United States Senate to help this president get his policies put through. I'm going to work with the leadership, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. These are the guys that determine what gets on the floor and what gets voted on. But from my perspective, I will try to provide input from a business perspective about what I've experienced in my career and what works inside the free enterprise system.
Senator Perdue, I know you celebrated, along with many of us in these parts, the announcement a few days ago that the state of Georgia was adding an extra $50 million worth of investment in our cyber operations down here, specifically the Cyber Institute. Your thoughts on the prospects for small businesses going forward, businesses that really will spring up around all things cyber? Do you feel good?
Well, what's drawing this is this cyber war that's going on. It's huge. We've got 2 brigades being formed in Augusta around the cyber warfare center there in the Army. You have the NSA there, and creating a huge demand for talent. And what the governor has done and people around in the private enterprise system there in Georgia have done is said, look, we want to have a public-private partnership here to get people trained, to create the talent and retain that talent right there in the Augusta area. There's no secret why these big centers were put down there. It was because we do have access to that talent, and we have a state government with our legislature and our governor who are business-oriented, and they understand what it takes. This $50 million investment is a huge step forward to get that put in place to make sure we have the talent that we need in this very dangerous war called cyber warfare.
Finally, Senator Perdue, let me get you to take time, if you will, to deliver a message to those who are excited about the new administration, who voted for Donald Trump, and those watching who probably feel a little anxious right about now.
Well, that's normal in any transition like this. And by the way, this is our 45th inauguration. 45 times we've made a peaceful transfer of power in America. We cannot take that for granted. That is a rarity around most of the world. My optimism breeds from this, is that this man who's coming in got elected because he pulled together a very diverse group of backers in our country under one thesis, and that is we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We can do better than we've been doing the last 20 years. This is not about a partisan issue. This is bigger than Donald Trump. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than Congress. This is about the future of America. I believe every time America has faced a crisis, it's come out stronger and better. And that's what this president's been talking about. I believe that's what we'll see in his policies as we move forward. Yes, we're going to have open and active debate here. I hope we can break through the gridlock, but I am absolutely optimistic that we're headed for better days in our economy, in our country, and around the world.
Well, I know that this is a very busy time, Senator, and I'm grateful to you for your service to this country and for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Some good information there for sure from Georgia Senator David Perdue. And so looking back on the first few days of 2017, you have Congressman Rick Allen and Senator David Perdue. We're picking up in 2017 where we left off in 2016, and that is the Means Report being the destination for the newsmakers in our area. If you want to stay informed and you want to go in depth with us, then join us each week, Sundays and Mondays, on the Means Report.